Hello and welcome to Tonic Triads, our lesson on how to create and use and analyze tonic triads when we encounter them in our music activities. This is kind of a follow-up of our previous lesson when we talked about the scale degree names. So this builds upon that. And if you remember that lesson, I told you that the first letter of the scale is the tonic. The first note of any scale is called the tonic. I also said that this was the most important note in the entire scale, and that's the one that we name the whole key after, and also the one that everything relates back to. And so in the same way, a tonic triad or tonic chord is also the most important chord in the scale. So we're going to start building those. It's really simple. There's nothing magical about it, but it is really necessary to understand. So you might be wondering what a triad is, and that's simply a group of three notes that are a third apart from each other that sound at the same time, mostly. And so we call them a chord, and the tri part of the triad denotes the three notes at a time. You've already used this quite a lot in our warm-ups in band when I say pick the 1, 3, and 5 of that scale, and we're going to play it as a whole note, and we work on balance and intonation and all those lovely things. That's a tonic triad. And so you really do understand this already. This is just giving you a way to visualize what you're doing. And so with that in mind, I'm going to share my whiteboard with you and kind of work with you on how to complete some of this homework that I'm going to be assigning you very shortly. So this top part is what you will likely see in an assignment. There will be staff, there will be clefs, and there will be words at the top that tell you what key every one of those examples are in. You notice the one thing missing that you normally see is a key signature, and they don't give you that on purpose. And we're going to work through why that is. It's because they want you to figure that out on your own or know that already because you know your scales. If you are still kind of iffy on how to build your scales, this is going to be a lot harder than it needs to be. So I hope that you've kept up with our studies and are ready to tackle this new part of how to do theory. So the first thing I say that you need to do is think about what scale you need. And that information is at the top here. It says B flat major. So we need a B flat major scale. B flat major starts on B flat, then C, then D, then E flat, F, G, A, and finally B flat again. Okay? Nothing too crazy about that. Pretty straightforward. Then I say build a snowman chord with a 1, 3, and 5 of that scale. I call them snowman chords because when they're stacked on top of each other in whole notes, they look like a snowman. So if you visualize making a snowman, you have 3 balls kind of the same size and you stack them on top of each other and put eyes and nose and whatever else you want on them. That's a snowman. Same thing can be thought of with these chords. So here's a B flat, that's the 1 or the tonic. That's why it's called a tonic triad. D is the third of that scale. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, the dominant or the fifth is F. So we need to take those 3 notes and put them on this treble clef. So B in treble clef is right here. You stack D on top of it. Try to get them the same size. And F on top of that. So that's the first 2 steps. The bottom steps is double check to make sure you have used the correct flats and sharps and that you wrote it in the correct staff. Well, I know that I have it in the right spot for treble clef because I know this is the B line. However, I'm not done because I have this B flat down here, but I have not shown that in my answer. So I need to add a flat right here. And that lets everybody know that I understand that I am using a B flat, a D, and an F for that tonic triad. And that's really all there is to it. It's 3 simple steps. You do need to know some prior information to make it easier, like what scale you're going to be using. All right, the next one is E flat major. E flat major has 3 flats. Starts on E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. If you do not know that, you have to go through the steps to build a major scale first, and you should arrive at the same format. I just happen to have that part memorized, so it went quite fast for me, and it could for you too if you know those notes already, or you know what scale is E flat major. Second step is to build a snowman chord using the 1, 3, and 5 of that scale. Here's the 1, here's the median or the 3rd, and here's your dominant, which is the 5th. Okay, we are in bass clef this time, so we have to make sure we're using bass clef positions. Here's our E flat. Remember that the 2 dots in bass clef surround the F line. The note right underneath that has got to be E. And then our G. And finally our B. Now we have to double check and make sure we have all the flats and sharps needed. Well, we don't, because we need an E flat and a B flat, and neither one of those are marked, so we have to add that next. B flat and an E flat. Okay, now we're finished with that one. We wrote out the scale, found the 1, 3, and 5, and double checked our position and our notes, how we spelled them. Not hard, just kind of go through the steps logically and you'll get there with no issues. A major. A major is a sharp key. It has C sharp, F sharp, G sharp. 3 sharps in the key of A major. And so, same process. Find 1, 3, and 5 to build our snowman. Here's 1, here's 3, and here's 5. The tonic, the median, and the dominant. The next step is to draw it on the staff. We have our treble clef here, so we need to make sure that we're thinking in treble clef. Here's an A. Here's a C. And here's an E. The next step is to double check that we've used the correct flats and sharps. Well, we have not, in fact, done that because we do not have a C sharp written here. We just have a plain old C. So we have to add a C sharp there, and now we're good. And then we have to make sure we put it in the right place for the staff that they gave us. This is a treble clef. The treble clef circles the G line. The run above that is A, so we're golden. We've got that done. Not difficult if you know your scales already. If you don't know your scale, then you have to figure out that first, and that takes a little bit extra time. So a little bit of motivation for you to get those scales memorized if you don't have them already. These 3 examples have been in major keys, but you can have a tonic triad in a minor key as well. D minor shares a key signature with F major. So we'll build a natural minor scale on D, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D. So this B flat is the key signature for F major. Those share, their relatives, remember? And so we do the same process. 1, 3, and 5. Even though it's minor, it's still 1, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5. Those are the three notes we're talking about using a tonic triad in D minor. We're going to put this in bass clef. This is F. D would be down here. Here's a D, F, and an A. My snowman is lopsided today. Okay, then double check to make sure we've used the correct flats and sharps. Well, none of these three notes have any flats or sharps by them, so we can leave it as is. Then make sure we're in the right clef. This is indeed bass clef, and we wrote it that way, so we are good. And that's it. That's the process for doing this part of the assignment. Okay? There's another way that you will encounter this. Another thing that you may have to do. Let me erase this one at a time. Sorry, I don't know if this is faster than redrawing the whole thing or not, but it's the way I chose to do it this time. All right, so sometimes they simply give you the triad and they ask you what key they're in. So they might do something like this. All right, so they say this is a tonic triad. What key is it? Well, we look and we can see that it is in treble clef, and it begins with a E or an E. So we know that it's going to be using a scale that starts with E. We have to decide if it's E minor or E major, and we know these are 1, 3, and 5. So there's a note in between here that we don't know yet. E, G, B. F sharp, A, B, and we could keep going, but we don't really have to because we don't need it at this point. This is an E major scale because of this G sharp here. Because this G sharp was, whoops, sorry. Because this G sharp is right here, it makes it a major scale. We have to start thinking major. So if this sharp was not present, then we would have to say it's a G minor tonic triad. How do we know that it's at the beginning of a scale and not somewhere else? We know that because they tell us that up front, just in words, that it is a tonic triad. So the answer to this would be E major. Okay. It took longer to explain that than it probably did to figure it out. You may have been frustrated with me taking so long, but that's just the way it goes. It takes a while to draw these things. All right, so let's go move on to a new key. Let's do one down here in the bass clef. We're gonna go F, A, C. Okay, F, A, and C. This is bass clef. And we know the bottom line in bass clef is a G line. So the note underneath that has to be a F. So we're going to figure out what tonic uses those. And here's our 1, 3, and 5 in this key. Oops, keep doing that. Sorry, got my tools mixed up. Here's our 1, 3, and 5. Does that match? 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. Yep, it matches. So the answer to this is a tonic triad in F major. Okay. This isn't really super mind-boggling, I don't think. You can do this with starting on any pitch, as long as it fits into one or the other. Let's try A, C, and E. All right, well, it's got to be a note or a scale that starts with A, because we know this is supposed to be a tonic triad. Tonic triads start on the tonic. So we have, our first note has to be A. So we can just go ahead and write down the scale, or all the notes in the scale, C, D, E, F, G, A. All right. We're not really sure about things past here, right? So those notes, we're not sure what those, if they're going to have any sharps or flats, because the tonic triad doesn't give us that information. But we know for sure that the middle one is not C sharp, because it does not have a sharp sign by it. So when we use this 1, 3, 5, we're going to see 1, 3, and 5, A, C, E. So this is a minor chord, because this is not C sharp, which is part of the major scale. This is a minor scale. So the answer to this question would be A minor. Okay, we only have one spot left for this, so bear with me one more time. And I'm going to give you a new chord here. Let's do this one. Getting better at drawing circles, huh? All right, we are in bass clef, and we have an A flat for our first or bottom note. So A flat is the scale we're going to be using. We don't know yet whether it's going to be A flat major or A flat minor, but if we write out the letters that go here, remember I'm just putting the letters down. I haven't put any sharps or flats except for the A flat. And let's fill in what we do know. They give us this tonic triad, and they say this is an E flat. All right, well, if that's the case, then it's looking like it's going to be an A flat major chord. Again, we're not sure really about anything that happens after the dominant, because we don't have that information here, but we do know that if this is not, or if this is E flat, then we're pretty close to being able to say that this is going to be a B flat and this is going to be a D flat, and that's going to put us into A flat major. So this is definitely a major chord. If you were to sound it out or hear it played, you would say, oh, that's major. It's not a spooky minor chord at all. You would know right off that it is a major chord. Tonic is major, that means the key is major. So we could go ahead and fill these in. And you could put a flat right here and a flat right here. And you'd have your D flat there. It's really hard to see. Maybe I can fix that for you. There, move it over a little bit. So A flat, B flat, C, D flat, E flat, that's the key of A flat major. So all of that to get to this answer, A, come on, draw. A flat major. All right, so that seemed harder, but it really isn't. It's just kind of harder to show you and draw it all out. Okay, so far we've been using tonic triad in all together, sounding at the same time. And you may be thinking, what good is it to know this? This just seems theoretical and not actually something I would use in practice. And so I have an example to show you that tonic triads exist in music without having to be stacked on top of each other. So once you know what they are, you can start looking for them in different configurations and spread out. So one more share with you and we're almost done today. Okay, so here's an example in music. And we see a key signature over here, right? And there is nothing in the key signature, no sharps or no flats. That tells us that we are in the key of C. Okay, the key of C has 0 sharps and 0 flats. So if we're thinking of the tonic triad in the key of C, we're going to be looking for the notes C, E, and G because we take the 1, 3, and 5 of that C major scale. Okay, so the question in your homework would be, in which measure does the tonic triad exist in this song? Okay, so even without playing it, you can look for those 3 notes. Does this measure have a C, E, and a G in it? Well, here's a C, here's an E, I did it in both clefs for you guys, but I don't see a G. So measure 1 is a no-go. We don't have all 3 notes represented. Measure 2 starts with a G. So we have promise here, and there's our E, and there's our C. So C, E, G is the tonic triad. It's all spread apart. It doesn't happen at the same time, but it is a tonic triad in that measure, and our ear will hold on to those 3 notes and create the whole chord for us. Let's keep going and make sure there's no other places where this exists. Measure 3, I only see E's here. I don't see any G's or C's. So that's a no-go. There's no tonic triad there. And measure 4, here's a C and here's a G, but there's no E. So it is not a C major chord, so it can't be the tonic in this key. Okay, so your answer would be measure 2 is where that tonic triad happens because there are all 3 notes represented. C, E, and G are represented in that key. I said already that you don't have to hear this to identify those tonic triads, but since I have the capability of playing it for you, I'm going to. Here we go. Okay, and I hope that you could hear those 3 together. Even though they were played separately, your ear can hold on to that. As we're talking about chords or triads, I'm going to play this one more time for you. And my question for you is, does this song feel over? Does this seem like the ending of the whole song or just maybe a sentence or 2 or a phrase? So the question was, does it feel over? I hope that you said no. I hope that you said, no, it doesn't quite feel finished. It seems like halfway maybe, or not quite all the way finished, maybe just one thought, but not the full completion of that thought. And there's a reason for this. We do in fact have a triad in this last measure. We have a G, a B, and a D. Now that is not the tonic triad in the key of C major. G in the key of C major is the dominant, or the fifth scale degree. So a triad built on the fifth is called the dominant, and its job is to provide some rest but not completed feeling. So we can hang out there. It's kind of like saying, I went to school and had, you won't believe what happened. Well, you want to hear what happened when somebody starts a sentence like that, right? So it's not over. You want to hear what happened when you went to school, but it provides kind of a breathing point and some tension because you want to create that. So that's kind of not part of our tonic triad explanation, but I wanted to give you the realization that there are chords in starting on other scale degrees, and they have different functions. I'm going to play just the first two measures and answer if you feel like this is kind of more complete. We end on C. We've had a G, an E, and then a C. So yes, it feels pretty over. It's not very long and it's not very developed, but it is more completed in your ear than the whole example is because it ends on the tonic and not on the dominant chord. If you stopped playing there, people wouldn't start throwing things at you because you didn't leave them hanging and say, oh, I went to school and you won't believe what happened, and then walk out of the room. People are going to like, what happened? You need to tell me. And that's the job of the dominant, is to make you want more. All right, so that last little part was for free. You didn't pay for that. If you if you got really confused by my whole dominant explanation at the end, just file it away. We'll get to it again later, and it'll make even better sense when we get there the second time. All right, tonic triads are not difficult. They start on the name of the key. You take the 1, 3, 5, stack them up together, make sure you have the correct sharps and flats, and you're good to go. If you are given the chord and are told that this is a tonic, then you have to figure out the key from that information, which is just a little bit of detective work. All of this is made possible by already knowing your scales. So if you are behind in memorizing your scales, it's going to catch up with you, and you're going to take even longer with your theory homework and be a little bit frustrated until you get that. So again, motivation to get those scales learned. Other than that, the other point I made in this video is that the tonic triads can be spread out in a measure. They don't all have to be sounding at the same time. You just have to know what the notes are and look for them in your music. And you'll find them. They're all over the place. That's it for tonic triads today. If you have questions or need help completing your assignment, feel free to email me. And remember, on most Fridays, not during spring break, but other times, I have that drop-in theory homework practice session. So you can ask specific questions there and probably get most of your theory assignments done during that class if you need or desire that. Until next time, we will see you.